Hello everyone, it's time to go back to normal scheduling as we delve into the crazy that is social justice. And today's video is some kind of video about white versus whiteness, and it's presented by this brown girl. I don't think she's white, she looks a little bit like me. So yeah, we're getting lectured on white versus whiteness by someone who probably isn't even white. Social justice people, they know more about the white people who are white than the white people who are white. So yeah, strap in people, the cringe is real.
With all the conversations going on right now around PCC's Whiteness History Month project,
I don't know about you people, but have you heard of this? I haven't heard about this. Are you sure it's not the, well, if there's a so-and-so history month, therefore there must be a so-and-so history month argument? Is that what you're talking about? Because I've not heard about any discussion about that, love. But let's continue, people. I'm sure she'll explain it.
we thought we'd help clarify a few things.
Oh, excellent. I always wanted some clarifications from social justice warriors. Hell yeah, please, give me that clarification.
This video is meant to help everyone understand the difference between white and whiteness.
There's a difference? I did not know.
White is a term describing people. It refers to light-skinned people of European descent. We use white to describe skin color.
Yeah, we understand why we use the term white, black, brown, yellow, etc. Yes, everybody understands this. It doesn't take a genius to work this out. And besides, technically, no human is truly black and no human is truly white or even yellow. It's all different shades of, well, pink, brown, and I think that's about it really. I'm just paraphrasing a YouTuber I once heard say something like this. But yeah, if you were to put your hand on a white piece of paper and you were white, you would find that you are not actually white. Just like if a black person were to put a hand on a black piece of paper, he wouldn't look black, he would be like a different shade of brown. So yeah, never mind, I'm probably just going on with myself, people, but yeah, continue.
The term white itself wasn't even created until the 17th century.
No, the term was not invented in the 17th century. We can go as far back as the ancient Greeks describing Africans, actually in very good terms. They described them as having something like skin of coal or something. They were just using metaphor to describe them in very nice terms. They were absolutely enamored with like the people who lived in what is now modern day Sudan, southern Egypt. I forgot the exact metaphor, but they described them in ways that we would cringe at. We've been doing that for a long time. We've described people who have different hair colour, different skin colour. We've always done this. The term white was not invented in the 17th century. It just wasn't. There have always been white people, there's always been black people, but back then it was just someone who is that skin colour. I guess you mean the modern way of using it, which might be true, but then again, the term evolved again and again throughout the centuries anyway. Even now you're using it in a different way than they did. So, it doesn't make much sense, girl, does it?
It was legalized after Bacon's Rebellion to better differentiate people of European, African, and indigenous descent.
Now, I know I'm using Wikipedia as a source, but their source for this little sentence that I'm going to be quoting is from William J. Cooper, Liberty and Slavery, Southern Politics to 1860, 2001, so I'm probably going to get that book because it sounds very interesting, but that's their source. And they say, indentured servants, both black and white, joined the Frontier Rebellion. Seeing them united in the cause alarmed the ruling class. Historians believe, or one historian, but it could be he's one of many, historians believe the rebellion hastened the hardening of racial lines associated with slavery as a way for planters and the colony to control some of the poor. It had nothing to do with hardening racial lines in the sense of this is what you are, this is what you are. It was to stop them from rebelling because both black and white joined each other's cause. They joined the rebellion. Both slaves and indentured servants, or black indentured servants and white slaves, because there were both during that time. So that's what it was about. It was to stop rebellion.
So remember, white is a word that people with a certain skin color might use to identify themselves.
Yes, some people may identify themselves as white people, but they were doing that long before Bacon's Rebellion, so again, I don't understand. The 17th century is not the place in time where people started to refer themselves as white people, or black people, or whatever colour they may be. People have always done that. People have always been described that way. And Bacon's Rebellion did nothing but use race as a way to keep the poor from rebelling and basically getting rid of the upper classes. That might sound slightly Marxist, maybe, but there's evidence to suggest that's why they did it, because both white and black slaves fought against the loyalists. So, yeah. And besides, this has nothing to do, really, with the rest of the world, because this is just a small rebellion that happened in Virginia in the 1670s. This does not have, say, the long-lasting implications that, say, the actual slave trade itself would have had. This is just a small localized event that may have influenced American history. It has nothing to do with, say, British history, even though it was a British colony. It's a small footnote for us, and for the world, not even that. It's just Mitch's Law, American-centric crap designed to basically attach itself onto world history as if it's something really important and explains the Western world's apparent traits, even though it doesn't.
Now, whiteness is a word used to describe the process that created races and perpetuates racism.
Wait, I'm sorry, how does the word whiteness describe the process of how racism began? You do realise that humanity in general are very tribal, and that tribalism is how racism was created, at least the concept was created. Basically, during the 18th century, they began to change the way they think about humanity, and we were all assigned to these different categories. But that has nothing to do with race, funnily enough. That has to do with the fact that humanity is tribalistic, and these people were trying to justify their hate. Humanity has always hated the other. Even when we were barely out of Africa, but before we started even reaching out towards the other parts of the globe, we didn't like that other tribe over there. They've got something that we need. White people did not create racism. Brown people did not create racism. Black people didn't create racism. It's just a human trait of hating the other. Whiteness does not mean that. When I hear whiteness being used, it's to describe, well, I don't know, traits of what makes a white person, like blackness. How come blackness doesn't get something like that? Or brownness? But I've never heard that term, so whatever.
Whiteness divides people into categories based on skin color. It assigns different values or characteristics to those categories.
No, that's called tribalism. That's called racism. That's called prejudice. That's what divides people, not whiteness. Not this thing that makes someone white, the lack of melanin or their culture or whatever whiteness means to someone. That is not what whiteness means. You are basically saying that white people are responsible for this when they are not. When we have seen throughout history and evolution in all civilizations towards this pattern of thinking. Before Western civilization thought about race, they used to think that your geographical area determined how weak you were. For example, the Greeks used to think that the Persians were unmanly and girly and all sorts because they used to wear trousers. They come from the desert, so they must be weak. While they really liked the Africans because they came from a place that was enriched culturally by the Egyptians, and they had a nice culture around that area. And also, they just liked the way they looked, I think. So, yeah, that's why they did it. And plus, they were at war with the Persians, so that's why they would say these things. And the Romans would do the same to the Greeks. That's what they did. But throughout history, humanity began to change and come up with stupid concepts to further justify hate or to do things to people that require a lot of mental gymnastics to condone and to justify doing. Hence, this stupid concept, which has nothing to do with the fact that the people were white. They were just horrible, immoral people of various colours, by the way, trying to justify their hate. It's that simple.
And then structures the operations of our society around those beliefs.
Again, you're talking about American culture, not Western Europe or even Eastern Europe or any culture that is similar to ours like Japan, South Korea, etc, etc. You think that is what has caused America to think the way that it has. And what's ironic is that is as racist as what you're accusing whiteness of being. It's ironic. Certain concepts that were created to basically justify the things that people had to do towards the other has now seeped into our consciousness and become fairly benign things unless used in a horrible way, such as racism or hate crimes, as you would say. It's no longer really used to justify that stuff because it's now illegal. It's more used to justify other things like beating a certain person up, for example. This is what happens when ideas like this stick. But rather than blaming one race for the actions of all races for a human trait, let's just try and, I don't know, sort this issue out together rather than blaming each other. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Because those values have been normalized, it means that even though the creators of this system are long gone, our ideologies and institutions by default are designed to favor light-skinned people.
I'm sorry, but those days have long since gone. If anything, it's the opposite because you have black-only scholarships in America. You don't have any white-only scholarships. You certainly would have had things like that back in the 1960s and the 50s and long before then, but we don't have that anymore. It's the opposite. And we have things like affirmative action, which don't benefit white people, they benefit other people. Now, sometimes it does work, sometimes it doesn't work. But overall, that doesn't look like a society that seems to want to benefit people who are lighter. Of course, there are some benefits, I don't think I'll deny that. You're less likely to be stopped and searched by the police if you're lighter than other people, although I have been stopped and questioned twice, so then again, I'm also brown skinned, but I'm not exactly someone who is very dark, so, and even then, a lot of it is to do with, say, the area. It could be a high crime area, or it could be a very poor area. But again, your society is not geared that way. There might be some things, there might be some biases in there, but they're not Jim Crow. You seem to think we live in Jim Crow still, or rather you lot live in Jim Crow, which is not the case.
So to make it easier, when we use the word white, we're talking about people. When we say whiteness, we're talking about a system.
I'm sorry, but that's not what it sounds like at all. It seems like you are referring to both the people and the culture that they come from, even though your culture is actually distinct from the white culture of my country and the white culture of France and the white culture of Hungary, Germany. They're not all the same. And again, whiteness is not that system. Whiteness is, again, it's a description of somebody's culture or how white you are, etc. It's not nothing to do with that. Again, you have a mixed race president. If that system was as you claim it to be, why is he in charge? You are referring to the people. You are blaming an entire demographic of people for what your country used to be like, not what it is like now. There might still be some leftovers from that time, but that stuff will eventually either disappear completely or be so small as to be negligible in the grand scheme of things. And that's probably where it is now, but you people are projecting your own racism onto society, and this is what we get. Videos like this.
People, system. People, system.
You've not actually differentiated between the two. You have literally said that they are one and the same thing while trying to say that they're not. How can it be whiteness, yet you can't really blame the people when you are blaming the people because they're full of whiteness, aren't they? The logic, I can't follow it, love. It's just racist crazy. That's all I can hear, and it's an insult to, like, what, 3/4 of my family? It's an insult. That's what it is.
And that system impacts everyone.
That system is not how you described it to be at all, and it's not called whiteness. You're basically blaming a whole demographic on what your system is like, which is not what it's like at all. It used to be like that, and maybe yes, you can lay the blame on the top echelons of that demographic, you know, the ones who actually ran everything, and the ones who also enslaved their fellow white people, and also maybe the Native Americans who took slaves, and the black people who took slaves. You know, everyone did it back in the day. It was a human thing that they used to do. It was a given. It was a cultural thing almost. Entire cultures like the Barbary States in North Africa were set up around that. But no, we're just going to call it whiteness and not, you know, maybe just a segregated system that no longer is around, a racist system that is no longer around. It might have in its present form some there, but it's negligible.
Well, that's all for now. Stay tuned for more videos and check us out at pcc.edu/WHM for more info on the project and our calendar of events.
To be honest, I'd rather not, but you're a bunch of racists and I have to call racists out. So, if I ever see any of your videos, I'll be sure to check them out. Okay, that's the end of the video, people. Hope you had fun. I had fun. And if you enjoyed this video, like it. If you like my channel, please subscribe. And if you love my channel, please donate to my Patreon. All links are down below. And I will see you all later.